Daf Yomi Tractate Zevachim, page 18b, starting from the bottom of 18a with the brisa that just the last line. Started reading in English. The sages taught if the priest's vestments are dragging on the ground or raised up far from the ground or frayed, the priest performs sacrificial rites while wearing them. His service is valid. If he wore 2 pairs of trousers or 2 belts, or if he was lacking one of his requisite vestments, or if he wore 1 extra vestment, or in a case where a priest had a bandage on a wound on his body under his vestment, such that the bandage acted as an interposition between the vestments and his skin, or if he wore vestments that were, now we're on the top of 18b, mitushtashim o mikoraim v'avad avodato pasula, soiled or ripped, and he performs sacrificial rites, his service is disqualified. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mirushalin Kesherin Misukarin Pesulin Ve'atanya Misukarin Kesherin Amar Rav Barchama Lokashya Kan Shesilkan Al Yedei Avnet Kan Dilitinihu Mikaraklaha. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says if the vestments are dragging on the ground, they are fit, but if they are raised up above the ground, they are unfit. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in the above brayta that even if the vestments are raised up, they are fit? Rabbi Barchama says this is not difficult. Here the brayta deems them fit in a case where the priest raised them up by his belt, although they were initially the proper length. There, Shmuel deems them unfit in a case where they do not initially cover the priest's feet at all. Rav Amar echad ze v'echad ze b'sulin. Rav says in both this case and that case, whether they were dragging or raised up, they are unfit. Rav Huna ikla le'argiza ramale bar ushpiz chane Mi Amar Shmuel Mirushalin Kesherin Musukalin Pesulin Ve'atanya Misulakin Kesherin Amar Le Barmina Dahi Lishanaya Rami Barchama. The Gemara recounts Rav Huna happened to come to a Griza. Son of his innkeeper raised a contradiction before him. Did Shmuel actually say that if the vestments are dragging on the ground, they are fit? But if they are raised up above the ground, they are unfit? But isn't it taught in brayta that even if the vestments are raised up, they are fit? Rav Huna said to him, raise a contradiction from any source apart from this brayta. And as Rabbi Barchama already answered that it does not contradict Shmuel's statement, as it applies only to vestments that were initially the proper length. Ela Rav Kashya. But the Gemara asks, but doesn't this brayta pose a difficulty for Rav, who deems the vestments unfit even if they were dragging? V'chi tema mirushalin misulakin al yidei avnet megaz agiz el misugalin kashya. And if you would say, what is the meaning of the word dragging in the brayta? It means that they would initially drag, but were raised up by a belt, the proper length, and they are fit since the belt effectively trims them. But then the term raised up in the brayta poses a difficulty. Why should the brayta deem raised vestments fit if the brayta is referring to vestments that were initially the proper length and were then raised up by a belt? Then shouldn't they be unfit as the belt trims them? אמר רב חלצני מרושלים שסילקן על ידי אבנת כשאירים. Rabbi Zera says Rav taught the Braita not as referring separately to both dragging and raised vestments, but as one statement referring to vestments that are simultaneously dragging and raised, meaning dragging vestments that the priest raised up by his belt to the proper height are fit, but if they were above or below their proper height for any reason, they are unfit. Amar Rav Yehuda Yerushalayim Shelo silken tanai Tanya al arba kanfos kisutcha arba v'lo shalosh o eno ela arba v'lo chamesh כשהוא אומר אשר תכסה בה, הרי בעלת 5 אמור, המעני מקיים 4 ולא 3. ומה ראית לרבות בעלת 5, ולהוציא בעלת 3. מרבה אני בעלת 5, יש בכלל 5 4, ומוציא אני בעלת 3, שאין בכלל 3 4. Rabbi Yirmiyahu Difti says the case of dragging vestments that the priest did not raise is the subject of a dispute between Tanaim. As it is taught in a Braita, the verse states, on the 4 corners of your garment, Deuteronomy 20:12, from which it can be inferred 4 but not 3, meaning a 3-cornered garment is exempt from the obligation of ritual fringes. One may ask, or perhaps it is only specifying 4 but not 5, when it says in the same verse with which you cover yourself a garment, or a garment of 5 corners is mentioned as obligated. If so, how do I recognize the meaning of 4 corners? It means 4 but not 3. And what did you see that led you to include a garment of 5 corners and to exclude a garment of 3 corners? I include a garment of 5 corners as 4 is included in 5, and I exclude a garment of 3 corners as 4 is not included in 3. V'tanya idach al 4 kanfos kisutcha 4 v'lo 3 4 ולא 5 מעילה ביה כמפלגי תמר סובר יותר כמאן דייסי דמי ומר סובר כמאן דלייסי דמי. And it is taught in another Braita that the verse states on the other 4 corners of your garment, from which it may be inferred 4 but not 3, and also 4 but not 5, meaning only a 4-cornered garment is obligated in the mitzvah of ritual fringes. Rabbi Yirmiyahu continues, what? Is it not that these Tanaim disagree with regard to this, that one sage who deems a 5-cornered garment exempt holds that an extra item is considered as though it exists and cannot be ignored, and one sage who deems it obligated holds that it is considered as though it does not exist, and the garment has only 4 corners. Accordingly, the first sage deems a dragging priestly vestment unfit, since one cannot ignore the extra fabric, while the second sage deems it fit, since the extra fabric is treated as immaterial. Lo. The Gemara responds, no. Everyone agrees that an extra piece of garment is considered as though it exists, and therefore dragging vestments are unfit. And according to the Tanya of the second Braita, it is different here with regard to ritual fringes, as the Merciful amplifies the halacha to obligate even 5-cornered garments with the words with which you cover yourself. V'idach ha'zichase ba. V'idach ha'zichase ba. V'idach ha'zichase ba. V'idach ha'asher zichase ba. V'idach ha'asher Asher techased ba mai abid le mi boy le Daniel isimoso pradexus laila or eno ela pasuso me kishu omer asher techased ba areksuso me amur hama anim bekam isimoso pradexus laila. Little break for a moment. Weiter. Ve'idach Hai asher tikasu ma'avle diboy lekin tani urissimo so Prat lekesus laila o eno ela prat lekesus yosoma Keshehu omer asher tikase ba. I think I said this already, but asher tikase ba lekesus somam amor ha'eno ani mekayim. The Gemara asks, and the other sage who deems 5-cornered garments exempt, what does he do with this verse, with which you cover yourself? The Gemara responds, he requires it for that which is taught in Braita. The verse states, and it shall be unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it. Numbers 15:39. The phrase that you may look upon it serves to exclude a night garment from the obligation of ritual fringes. As the fringes on such a garment cannot be seen, one might ask, or is it only to exclude the garment of a blind person who is unable to see the ritual fringes, when it states in the verse with which you cover yourself, Deuteronomy 22:12, the obligation of ritual fringes for the garment of a blind person is mentioned? If so, how do I realize the meaning of the phrase, that you may look upon it? It serves to exclude a night garment. Umar yisora kesusoma lehotzi kesus laila merabeani kesusoma שישנה בריאה אצל אחרים ומוצאני כסוס לילה שאני בריאה אצל אחרים. The Braita continues, and what did you see that led you to include the garment of a blind person and to exclude a night garment and not the reverse? I include the garment of a blind person because it is at least visible to others, and I exclude a night garment because it is not visible even to others. Ve'idach, 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 ve'idach. 9. Ve'idach nafkale me'ashel. Ve'idach ashel odaris. The Gemara asks of the other sage, who derives that a 5-cornered garment requires ritual fringes from the phrase with which you cover yourself. From where does he derive that the garment of a blind person requires ritual fringes? The Gemara responds, he derives it from the word which, in the phrase, as that term itself connotes an amplification of the halacha. The Gemara asks, and what does the other sage do with this word? The Gemara responds, he does not interpret the word which as an amplification. Tanu Rabanan Bad Shiyu Shel Boots Bad Shiyu Chadashim Bad Shiyu Shezurim Bad Shiyu Chutan Keful Shisha Bad Shelo Yilba Shel Chol Imahen. The sages taught, with regard to the priestly vestments, as the term linen, Leviticus 6:3, used in the verse indicates several properties of the garments. The verse linen to include, the verse says linen to indicate that they must be made of fine linen, boots, linen, that they must be new, linen, that their thread must be twisted of several plies, linen, that their thread must be folded 6 times, linen, that the priest may not wear non-sacred clothes along with them. Amar le Abai Rav Yosef. Abai said to Rav Yosef, Yishlam Yehoshua boots, Hakamash Melan, boots in, Midachin Elah, Erabad, Shihu Chadashim, Chadashim in Shchakina, Betayim Shulkin Yishem. Abai said to Rav Yosef, granted the statement that they must be fine linen is understood, this requirement teaches us that if they are of fine linen, they are fit. But if they are of something else, they are not. But with regard to the statement linen, that they must be new, one can infer that if they are new, they are fit, but if they are frayed, then they are not. But isn't it taught in the Braita 18a that even if they were frayed, they are fit? Amar le, uletamech bad shihu chutan kaful shisha, bad chad lechotei mashma. Ela hachi kamar, v'gadim shenemar bahen bad, tzirichin shihu shel boots, Chadashim shezurin, shehechutan keful shisha, yesh behen lemitzvah, yesh behen leaker. Rav Yosef said to him, and according to your reasoning, that the Braita intends to derive all of these requirements from the word linen, such that all of these requirements are indispensable, how can one understand the requirement linen, that their thread must be folded 6 times? The word bad itself means each one on its own. See Exodus 30:34. Rather, this is what the Braita is saying. Those garments with regard to which is stated, linen must be made of fine linen, and they must be new and twisted, and their thread must be folded 6 times. Some of these requirements constitute a mitzvah ab initio, and some of them are indispensable. Mimai dahai. Bad kitanahu, Amar Rav Yosef bar Rav Chanina, Dava ole min hakaka bad bad. The Gemara asks, from where is it known that this material bad is produced from the flax plant? Rav Yosef, son of Rabbi Chanina, says the verse is referring to an item that grows in the ground, which each stalk is growing on its own, bad bevad, meaning it does not split up into multiple stalks. The flax plant fulfills this criterion. You also have that with the incense. Bad bevad it says it should be separate. Ema amra mitzpel mitpetzel kitana nami mitpetzel miptzel al yedei lekuta miptzel. The Gemara asks, why not say it is wool? The Gemara responds, the individual wool fibers split into smaller fibers. The Gemara rejects this, but flax also splits. The Gemara responds, it splits only by being struck. Wool, by contrast, splits naturally. Ravina Amar Mihach. Erev hishtim yuarosham umechnise hishtim al matnehem lo yachru biyazah. Ravina says that the identity of Bad is derived from here. The verse states, with regard to the priestly garments, they shall have linen crowns upon their heads, pishtim, and shall have linen breeches upon their loins, and they shall not gird themselves, tiyaza. Okay. Ezekiel 44:18. The word pishtim is clearly referring to flax. Amar le Rav Ashi Ravina v'ha'ad diasei Yechezkel menalan uletamech ha de'amar Rav Chizda דבר זה מתורת משה רבינו לא למדנו, בדברי יחזקאל בבוזי למדנו, כל בן נכר ערל לב וערל בשר לא יבוא למקדשי לשרתני, עד שבו יחזקאל בנלן, אלא גמירי לה, ואתה יחזקאל ואסמכי אקרא, הכנה מגמר גמירי לה. Rashi said to Ravina, but before Ezekiel came, from where did we derive the identity of God? Ravina responded, and according to your reasoning, one could ask the same of that which Rav Chizda said with regard to the prohibition against temple service by one who is uncircumcised or an apostate. We did not learn this following the matter from the Torah of Moses, our teacher. We learned it from the words of Ezekiel ben Buzi, no stranger, uncircumcised in heart or uncircumcised in flesh, may enter into my sanctuary to serve me. Ezekiel 44:9. Until Ezekiel came, where did we derive this? Rather, this halacha is learned as a tradition and therefore was observed for generations, and Ezekiel came and gave it support by writing a verse. Here too, it is learned as a tradition, and Ezekiel came and gave it support by writing a verse. Mai lo yachiru bi'azah, Amar Abaye lo yachiru b'mkom shemazi'im. Kedetanya, kishehem chogrin, ein chogrin, lo lamatim mimatnehem, v'lo lamala me'etzleihem. Ela, the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase in the verse, they shall not gird themselves with yaza? Abaye said, they shall not gird themselves in a place in which people sweat, mezi'in. As it is taught in Brayta, when they gird themselves with the belts, they may not gird themselves below their loins, nor above their elbows, but rather, and to be continued.